Good morning, everyone. I have a hard drive here that every now and then it loses power. You can hear it spin up, but when it loses power, it shuts down and you get an error, hard drive controller failure on the screen. I've got wallered out pins right here. The pins, pin sockets have spread out so they no longer make good connection with the hard drive pins. Before we cut this connector out, I want to cut this connector out and put a good connector on this wiring harness right here. But before that, we want to make sure who 5 volts ground and 12 volts is. Normally, here on this pin is 5, the 2 middle pins are ground, and the last pin there, pin 4, is 12 volts. And they'll have wire colors like this right here. Red will be 5 volts, the 2 blacks right there are ground, and then the yellow wire is your 12 volts. But you don't want to get these backwards. It'll destroy that hard drive if I put 12 volts where that 5 volts is supposed to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire up this tower right here, and we're going to measure and then label each wire as 5 and 12. We know the 2 middle ones are ground. So let me turn this tower on here. I don't hear that hard drive spinning up. There you go. You see that? Can you hear that? If I play with these pins right here, right now it just spun up. All I did was touch those wires back there and it spun up. Okay. Since we got this power now, let's go to the pins. 5.05 on this first pin right here. I'm on the second pin, which is ground. We're going to go to the fourth pin and see what that measures like. We have 12.26 volts DC on the fourth. So make sure that third pin is ground. There we go. 5.05 from the first pin to the third pin. 12.26 volts DC from the third pin. So now, with power down, we're going to label all of these wires right here. So when I cut those wires and solder in the new connector, I won't solder it in backwards. I don't want to do that. Alright, let's power this down here. I'll move our meter out of the way. Give me some wire labels. Do the ribbon cable. Make sure you remember who pin 1 is so you don't put this in backwards. Hard drives don't work very well when you put the ribbon cable in backwards, and sometimes they're not keyed. This one here in particular, here's pin 1, the red line right here goes closest to the power connector. But you'll notice there's no key on this, so I can put it in any way I want to. But if I put it in backwards, it won't work. So we'll move that out of the way. Here's a book of wire labels right here. You can get these at the hardware store or off the internet. These labels have A through Z. 0 to 90, the plus, the minus, and the slash symbol. I'll open that up and I'll show you what's inside there. See all those labels? These are sticky. And you can wrap these around a wire down there. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to find 5 and 12 and 0 and wrap those around those wires down there. from our measurements, we know that this first wire is 5. So let me pull a 5 out of here. Back because we need some wire to solder onto. Here's our 5-volt wire with the label 5 on it. The last wire is 12. Let's get a 12 out of that book of labels. Put it far enough back because we need some wire to solder onto. There's 12. Now these wire labels will ensure that we don't get that 5 and 12 backwards. Or even the ground. You don't want to put ground on 5 or 12. Here's 0. That's going to be our ground. We could use G out of that pack, but 0 will be good. 0 for ground. We have 2 grounds. That's the one on pin 3. We had 2 grounds. Let's go label the other one. Going to pin 2. Let's double check ourselves. Okay, this was 5. We have 5 on there. 2 and 3 were ground. We have zeros on 2 and 3 to indicate ground. And the 4th pin was 12. And we have 12 on it. Okay. Now we can move this hard drive out of the way. Cut this off right here. Since we've got those wires labeled, we can cut that off. Don't have to worry about forgetting which wire is which because we have those labels on there. Let me see if I can get a close-up in here of what happened to that connector. Can you see that? This pin over here, it's all wallered out. It's wider than it should be. Actually, all the pins are. Just over the edge, they've come undone. Now you could get in there if you wanted to and push those back together, but I don't trust that. I want this fix to last a little while. These pins here, they've already come unsprung. And I want to put a new connector in there. Here's our new harness we're going to attach to that hard drive right there. I want to make sure that it goes in properly. Looks good. Okay. Now I'm going to solder this new harness to the existing harness. Place to set my soldering iron, so I am going to place a piece of plywood on top of the computer. This will do 2 things. It'll give me a place to set that soldering iron, and it'll also prevent molten solder from being accidentally spilled down into the computer motherboard. You don't want that to happen. It wouldn't boot up if you had molten solder all over the place. Okay. Now let's make sure we're unplugged from the wall. Let's get that tower unplugged from the wall. We don't want to cause cause any more problems than we've got. If you unplug that from the wall, you know you ain't got no 5 volts or 12 volts on those wires down there. We start soldering these together and stripping them back, and if this thing was powered up, that'd be pretty bad. We don't want to do that. Just tin our wires. You tin your wires, makes for an easier solder joint. Strip the wire back. Add a little bit of flux. We'll heat up the wire until the solder melts. Wire on that harness. Let's set that aside. We'll work on this wire and harness. Even up all the wires. One. Two more to go. Last one. The last one. Here's some heat shrink tubing. That's insulation that we're going to add on these 4 solder joints. Now, what this stuff is, it's pretty neat. You see how wide that is. When you apply heat to that, it shrinks. That's why it's called heat shrink tubing. Really neat stuff. Just need 4. Put those on the 4 each wires. You won't put it on now after you solder those wires together. You're not going to get that heat shrink tubing on there, so make sure you put it on there now. I've done that before. I get my wires all soldered up and I say, oh, I forgot the heat shrink tubing. Oh man, I'd have to unsolder my wires to get that on there. Don't be like me, don't do that. Let's move the wire stripper out of the way. soldering, what you want to do is just a little piece of solder off of here. We're going to set that out of the way. But hook soldering, what you want to do is just take a pair of needle nose pliers after you've tinned your wire and bend a little hook into it so it looks like that. Do each of your wires. This is called hook soldering. Hook, because we're making a hook. Now do the other side, same way. So it looks like that. You have little hooks in those wires. Now, you know the red wire is 5 volts. We grab our label with the number 5 on it and hook those 2 wires together. You don't have to, but I kind of like to join those hooks a little bit tighter together with the needle nose. Put tension on that wire until the solder solidifies. Heat up both wires. Add a little bit of solder in there. Let's do our 2 grounds. Grab this one right here. That's 0. Indicating our ground. Squeeze the hooks a little bit tighter. You don't have to, I just like to. Get my solder. Put some tension on those wires so the hooks don't come undone. Add a little bit of solder. Let that solder solidify. Now you can let it go. Do our other ground right there. Hook those 2 wires, the black wire and the ground wire, together. It's always the hardest part, trying to hold everything together, hold your solder and hold your iron at the same time. Makes you wish I had 3 hands. Okay, last one. The yellow wire is 12 volts. We got our wire marked number 12 to indicate 12 volts. Those hooks a little bit. There we go. Last one. Now before I shrink tube these down onto the solder joints, I just cover them up a little bit so they don't short out. And we're going to measure the voltages right here to make sure that I've got 12 on the yellow and 5 on the red. I don't want to shrink that heat shrink tubing down onto those solder joints just quite yet, because I might have to unsolder those if I got somebody miswired. Plug ourselves back into the wall. Turn that on. Hear the fan starting up. let's go to, there's the memory test. You can hear the speaker beeping for the memory test. Okay, I got my black lead on the black wire. There's 5.02 volts DC. Let's go to the other ground. And back to the red lead. 5.02 volts DC. Swap leads here because I'm going to go to the yellow wire. Let's go to the first black wire. There's 12.60 volts DC. Go to the second black wire and the yellow wire. 12.60 volts DC. So we're wired in there good. Now we'll hook it up to the hard drive. Move all this out of the way here. Give me a little bit to clean up my work area and get that hard drive put back in there. I'll be back in a little bit. Okay. Let's hook up our hard drive. Red line goes closest to the power supply on this one. Now, remember, we haven't shrunk this down yet. The heat shrink tubing is still able to float around. So make sure they're covered up. I want that 12 to get a hold of that ground or 5. Red lead here is 5 volts, then ground, yellow is 12 volts. Let's see how we do. See if it spins up. I can hear it. There's the speaker clicking on the memory test. Still running. There's post. Here's the hard drive. Looks like we fixed it. Alright. Now, as an added precaution, I'm going to add a little bit of solder to these 4 pins on the hard drive itself to give it a little bit of strength right there. Okay, folks, thank you very much for watching. Next thing I'm going to do before I get out of here, I got to heat shrink those wires down. I forgot all about that. Okay, let's get unplugged from the wall again. I'll go grab the heat gun. Grab the heat gun. That right there. This right here's a heat gun. Use a hair dryer, anything will work, as long as it applies heat to that heat shrink tube. Let's get the hard drive out of the way. It's back up in here. They don't want to stay on there, do they? But you'll see something amazing happen here in just a little bit. See these right here will shrink down. Camera so you can see. Make sure we got the solder joint in the middle. There we go. There it goes. It's shrinking. hates wrapping those wires up with electrical tape. Okay. There's the finished job right there. Ain't that pretty? Now that'll last a lifetime. That connector that was in there, you look at these ICs down here, they got 1989, 1990 date codes. We were young back then. So that connector's been in there. The original connector's been in there for a long time. No wonder the wires get wallered out. So that's how you change out one of your voltage connectors. Put a little bit of flux on there to help the solder flow. We're just going to add a little bit of solder here. Flow that solder pin to the board. A little bit of strength. Don't melt that plastic. Okay, I'll try not to. There we go. That's good. Put that hard drive back into the tower. See how she does. That hard drive's working. Good, good.